All right, Kelly, are you ready to rock and roll?
I am ready. I am ready.
All right. Thank you for hopping on this afternoon, everyone. Happy Spring Showcase. I hope everyone's having a great day despite this beautiful weather that Murfreesboro has given us. My name is Kristen Jansen. I'm the Assistant Director of Alumni Relations, and part of my job is bringing you guys awesome content. So webinars, I'm working with our MTSU Connect platform. I'm working with current students, young alumni engagement. Today, we've got Kelly Knowles, who is a two-time MTSU alum. So she's going to be talking to us today about social excellence and why you're going to bother with it. I will let her give you a little bit of information about herself and then about the topics. So sit back, relax, and Kelly, the floor is all yours. If you guys have questions at any point during the presentation, toss them into the chat and I will monitor that. So if there's something pertinent, I will let Kelly know and we will have more time for question and answers at the very end. So Kelly, floor is yours.
Sounds good, Kristen. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone who is tuning in live today. It is just an honor to be presenting out to the MTSU community. This is my third consecutive year getting to do a webinar with you all, and it has been a tremendous blessing. I've had the opportunity to meet some amazing people, do some great coaching sessions. So it has been super fun. As Kristen said, I'm Kelly Knowles, and I have a business called Kelly K Consulting. I also work at a local law firm in the Nashville area as a lead technology trainer. And I just left a firm where I had been for 10 years. So one of the things I'm telling myself today is new levels, new devils, y'all. So if any of you, I think that's been a big movement of people making changes in the last couple of years. So if I can offer something completely unrelated to social excellence, is allow yourself to have a beginner's mindset. And boy, do I have to take my own advice. So today we are going to talk about social excellence. This is a topic that came up to me last year when ATD, the Association for Training and Development Professionals, asked me to do a session. And this was one of their topics. And it has been a subject that I've researched. It is becoming very popular in the Greek community for those of you who are alum and part of that particular community. And I'm just super excited to provide this presentation today. And the why bother is because we have so many things vying for our attention. Webinars are everywhere. And so I always try to put an element, why bother being part of this? And that is my goal with you all today. So why we are perhaps grabbing a bite of lunch, depending on your time zone, I want to toss this question to you. The word social and excellence. Social and excellence. Depending on how active you are, maybe in the social media world or in your local community, do those two words fit for you? Or do they seem appropriate together? Now, I come from a generation where we matched our socks. I understand that that is not the cool thing anymore, but do they seem appropriate together? So I thought I'd start with a little bit of fun. And during 2020, 2021, I don't know about y'all, but those 2 years just kind of merged together. Can you relate to that? This was a very popular television show. Did not get a chance to watch it, but I think just about everyone that I knew was talking about it. And believe it or not, this was a Zoom background. I'll let you decide if it was socially excellent. I would offer, depends on the situation. And I know, hopefully, you don't feel this way. I'm going to ask you if you can, just to give yourself a moment to center and think about our topic today, because I'm going to bet within the last 2 minutes, you've already checked your email, glanced at your phone, or looked out your window. And I get it. I get it 1,000%. And there are days when I may feel just like this guy. I came from a training, jumped into this, and then I'm headed back into 3 hours of training. I have a feeling this afternoon I might wish I had those Post-its for my eyes. And then finally, this is my own blunder. I have plenty. I wish I didn't have so many. But I was sitting in a session several months ago. It was an officer training for an organization I'm part of. And can I be transparent and just tell you I was bored to death? I was so bored. It was Saturday. The last thing I wanted to be was in officer training on a Saturday afternoon. And I guess I had some chewing gum. And I guess I was giving it some extra chew and did not even realize it, was not self aware at all. And I got a private message. And this person who I did not know said to me, "Hey, Kelly, loving that gum." And I went through the gamut of emotions in a very short window of time, 5 seconds, maybe. It was not being socially excellent on my part. I was not engaged. I was not behaving in a way that said, "Hey, I want to be here. This is a choice." I also would offer that I had to do one of the phrases that I've said a lot the last few years: assume noble intent. Some of us might hear it as assume positive intent. Why? Because I felt very embarrassed. As a matter of fact, I felt shamed. But I also had to think about, I don't know this person. Was this person really trying to give me a heads up? Hey, do you have any idea? So if there's something going on today that I need a heads up on, please share it in the chat. But I will say that I had to put some onus on myself and go, you know what? It wasn't being socially excellent. I wasn't being engaged. It did wake me up a little bit because, as we all know, you get out of things what you put into them. And with future trainings, I have really tried to be mindful of that. And I have gotten more out of future officer trainings, even though most of them are, y'all, on a Saturday morning. Speaking of Saturday, because it's a big sports day for a lot of people, does anybody know this phrase? Does anybody know the rest of it? And Kristen, feel free to interrupt me. I'm curious. Clear eyes, full hearts. Anybody know?
Can't lose.
Can't lose. Yay. I was curious to know if this would just completely fall. This is a great television show my husband and I both watched. I am a joke when it comes to speaking sports, but Friday Night Lights was a fun television show that many of us have gone back and binged again. But I love this because it was his way of kind of centering the team and getting them engaged and ready for where they were headed. And this is something I'm going to ask ourselves to do when we're thinking about today's topic is if we want high quality organizations, high quality families, we've got to have high quality interactions. And though I just wanted to toss out that clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. Here's another way to look at it: eyes up, hearts open. That may sound a little extra soft for a rainy Tuesday, at least it is here in Middle Tennessee. But I will ask you, can you do that today? Can you give yourself a few moments today to just focus in, see what this content is all about, and see what you can take away and immediately apply? That's why I'm a why bother person. I don't want to listen to just stuff that I can't apply. It's just the practical side of me. Many of you may know a term, and we're going to move into, Kelly, what's the social excellence you keep talking about? Suzanne Bates is renowned as an influencer for the subject of executive presence. Many of you may have heard of that. And she has a book out, All the Leader You Can Be. It's in my stack over here behind my shoulder. She talks about executive presence as the qualities of a leader that engage, inspire, align, and move people to act. Social excellence takes that executive presence and brings it up a notch. And today we're going to think about this from the perspective of aspiration. And it is because it is so much more than charisma. It's so much more about than just checking the boxes. It is all about this perpetual generosity, curiosity, a lot of words here, positivity, and openness. That's why I'm saying this is aspirational. It's intentional connection. How often do we intentionally connect? Connecting's everywhere. And then engaging in deep, meaningful conversation. Now, obviously, situational awareness comes into play here, but that deep conversation, conversation that is meaningful and gets things done. And then that responsible and respectable manner. My chewing gum on that Saturday probably wasn't being very respectable, respectful. I'd love to share a story that gives you some reality to this. For those of us who like networking, and yes, I am one of those people, we've participated in a lot of virtual events. That has been one of the, I don't know if silver lining is too strong of a word, but it's been a positive because I don't have to spend as much time in the car driving to events to be able to meet people and learn. And I came across a lady on a call one day, and we just could tell, I could just tell she was more than just a surface connection. You ever had those? The next thing we knew in a very short conversation is we discovered she lived about 3 miles or less from my mother in East Tennessee. And in this conversation, she talked about her husband being a school teacher and doing landscaping during the summer. Now, y'all, I cannot begin to tell you how many of my bells went off because my mother had just been complaining that she couldn't find someone to do some of the landscape work around her property. And I started putting these two things together. And so I mentioned this to her. And the next thing you know, that connection was made beyond the immediate business at hand. And my mother had someone to help her with her landscaping. That is so cool. But what did it take? It took two people being willing to go a little bit below the surface, situationally aware, to have some intentional engagement, some intentional connection. And what a winner. So when we think about these things, this is, while incredibly aspirational, when we look at all of these words, it's also worth it. It's in that why bother. And then this is the last thing I'll toss in here as I'm working to give the why bother is this great meme. Daily, it's a challenge meant to inspire continuous improvement. And it's a target. It's always just a little bit out of reach to push us forward. One of the phrases that I say often, and I really do believe it, is that we are better together. We are better together. And social excellence allows us to do that. I don't know about y'all, but I sure would like to see a lot more better. And by having these situations where we engage and connect intentionally, I think we can get there. It's aspirational. We're human. Gosh, we're messy humans. So that's why we put the aspirational out of there. And if I could be honest, and you may feel this way on a gray Tuesday, some days I don't always want to be a better version of myself. And I have to kind of reset and refresh to get myself moving forward again. At the end of the day, this is all a choice. We have a choice. Social excellence is not mandatory. It's not something we must do. We have a lot of those in our lives, don't we? It's part art because it does require that human connection. And I get it. Human connection can be challenging and messy, and we encounter people different from ourselves, and things may not always gel. And then it is part science because there is this thing called social skills. Some of us have had to learn some of those the hard way. We may be a late bloomer. But today we're going to address all three of these things using the Color Code personality profile. I am beyond stoked, if I may use that word, at how many of you have already gone in and tried out that profile and taken it. I'm so excited when I saw those coming through. And the reason I wanted to look at color code is because it talks about something regarding motive. Motive does matter. And when we kind of discover what our driving core motive is, that becomes our superpower for social excellence in an authentic way. This isn't about doing something that's artificial. I'm not about that. If you know me a smidge, you know that is not the way we want to do things. My late father used to say something to me, and it was his working class kind of gruff way of saying work better. But he would say, Kelly, they named a street sign after you. One way. Can you relate to that? Maybe you have some people that maybe you wanted to say that to. It was a good lesson he was trying to give me, because what he was saying is you've got to learn the motives of others. You've got to learn how to interact with others. That can't all be your way. And if we don't, I'm going to offer that it can be a dead end. It can be a dead end to our development, to our growth, to having better relationships in our families, to having better organizations, to being able to build teams that we look forward to spending time with. So if this is a challenge for you, I live it. I've been there. And today can be some opportunity to learn, because I would offer that if you struggle with this, it can keep you stuck. It can keep you in places that maybe you've had enough of, or maybe you're ready for some additional growth and development. So it is important. When we look at this, we're looking at this concept of behavior versus driving core motives. So many things out there as tools look at behavior. And what I love about the color code is that it starts with your driving core motive, which is really everything below the surface. And this was something that when I discovered it back in 2017, it really helped me to better understand myself first. Why, in so many situations, I seemed to be a little bit of out of place or not quite connect the way that I wanted to. And then it helped me in my interactions with others. I do a lot of coaching and speaking and training and facilitating. It is my day. And so being able to do this, being able to kind of strip away all those filters and better understand myself, and hence leading to better understanding others, has really been incredibly impactful. We have to practice these things, obviously, but they can make a difference. So as we look at this, the driving core motive per color code, which has been around about 30 years, and this is the way that I like to describe this, and this is an important point, I think. This is not your identity. This is a tool in your communication toolbox. And that to me is an important differentiator. It's this inner understanding about ourselves that gives us insight to our personality. And again, kind of repeating myself, how it impacts our interactions. Color Code's premise is that this is innately who we are. If you've taken the profile already, or if you're going to be taking it, I've got a link at the end of our session today. One of the things you notice is that it's asking you about things when you were very young. Why? I kind of joke as before I learned how to grow up and get along well with others, but it's trying to get at the heart of your personality. Do we grow and develop? Absolutely. Do we develop character? Of course we do. But this is often innately who we are. I always get tickled. I have to know if any of you all out there did this, at people who say, I don't like it, I'm taking it a second time. I get it. I get it. And I haven't seen one that comes back with really remarkably different results, nor several years later. So this is kind of going at kind of our innate core personality. It can explain things such as, if you're familiar with that fight, flight, or freeze, especially in a social interaction, it can help to explain why one person is all about the fight, another person is going to freeze, another person's going to kind of go away and be able to reassess their thoughts. I was having this conversation with some folks at dinner one night, and one of them said to me, I always think of the perfect thing to say an hour later, or if I'm in the shower and I'm kind of revisiting the conversation. And I always get tickled to hear people talk about how they handle different interactions. Anybody has anything in the chat that we should share, please do. So we're going to do a short introduction to color code. This isn't a big deep dive. It's just going to give you the highlights of it, because as we go back to this social excellence, how can I connect with someone when I'm super introverted? How can I do these various things? This is going to give you some phenomenal insights. There are 4 personality profiles, 4 colors. Now, again, you all are individuals. And so we all are a combination. We're going to look at big picture and then delve into it a little bit. So the first color is red. You'll hear me refer to it as red versus power. Power can have a negative connotation for some people, but it's all about action. It is all about getting things done. And we're going to look at these a little closer. The next color is intimacy, blue. Now, I like to rephrase that to connection, because if we're being honest, some people think of intimacy more in a physical way. This is more about somebody who is all about having that really meaningful connection. Peace. I married the white personality, and wow, it was needed. Can we just say that was needed in Kelly's life? And their driving core motive is peace. And then finally, fun. For some people who they'll do their color code and they'll find out that they're the yellow personality, and they're like, oh, does that mean people won't take me seriously? Absolutely not. I actually think this is one of the most lovely pieces to add to a community, whether it's a team or family or an organization, makes such a impact when it comes to interactions. So power, as I'd mentioned, is action. Power is those people are going to get you from point A to point B. They're all about leadership and vision. And let me pause here. We're not about labeling. Can someone with one of these other personalities be a leader and a visionary? Absolutely. Any color, if you will, can do any job. They can work with any other person. This is not a labeling piece, it's helping you understand kind of your driving motive. So, reds, when they're healthy and they have good character, they will be the lifeblood of community. They're going to get things done. When we look at the blue, kind of going back to that concept of connection, blues, we've heard true blue, what perfect setting for that term, but blues are all about quality and value and service. They are going to be the people that are, dotting the I's and crossing the T's. And they are really, truly a phenomenal addition to our world. Can you see how these can come together and have some really amazing results? And then we'll look at peace, steady state, y'all. If you're familiar with the term cognitive dissonance, which means things are not adding up and evening out in your head cognitively, they hate it. They hate it because peace is always looking for steady state. They're always looking for clarity. They are some of the most tolerant people because they want to be tolerated. And they offer this great example of dignity and gentleness. What a gift. What a gift. And then finally, fun. I like to phrase this to live in the moment. The yellow personality will bring enthusiasm and optimism that is just so needed so often into our interactions with each other. And they're happy. They are generally happy. So I want to pause here and see if there's anything in the chat, Kristen, that we need to address before we take a look at strengths and weaknesses of each one of these profile colors.
We are good in the chat for now. So if you want to carry on, I'm sure something will pop up momentarily.
All right, sounds good. Thanks, Kristen. So we're going to take a look again at each one of these from a strengths and limitations. And then I've got a couple little fun bumper stickers for the colors. So we're not going to go through and read all of these. I just want you to see some of the key strengths and limitations of each one of these colors. Notice we talked about responsible with social excellence. Reds can be phenomenally responsible. Confidence, leadership, proactive. We need that, especially if there is a team with a lot of thinkers and it's time to just, what is that? It's either time to fish or cut bait. I do not fish, so I hope I said that correctly, but we all need those different combinations. Now, before we go into limitations, I heard a speaker talk about a reframing of limitations, because everybody can talk about, do you overcome your weaknesses? What do you do with your weaknesses? Can you turn them into strengths? One thing that this particular speaker said is, when we think about our limitations, can we neutralize them? That was so significant to me, because instead of beating yourself up, feeling overwhelmed, I could take every finance class from now until the day I pass, and I will still not be able to do that particular topic very well. It's not my bent, but how can I neutralize that limitation? I can find good resources. I can look for good advisors. I can explore subjects with people. Doesn't that just kind of take the pressure off, but also allow you to address it? So when we think about limitations, think about how you can neutralize them. Because guess what? A red, we always think we're right. And if we have good character, we know we're not always right. Goes back to that one-way sign my father was trying to tell me about. A red can potentially be selfish. And that insensitivity, that's important because it's not always intentional. They're very direct, and that can lead to some impatience. So if you are red, you may know how to relate, but if you are dealing with this personality profile in your world, how do you relate to them? So we're going to toss this out. Logic. They are typically interested in the logic, facts and figures, being direct and specific, articulate your feelings clearly, and they do want their decisions supported. If you are in, and I don't know if argument's the right word, but we're going to use it. We want to avoid emotions. We want to use that logic and direct. And they are going to expect fast answers and fast responses. I had a colleague tell me one time, once they got to know me, they realized I wasn't questioning them. I was trying to understand better. That was good self awareness for me as well, to think about how I ask questions, because I think why was my first word. And when we're in an environment where people are learning something new, we really do have to be careful in how we present things so that there is not that feeling of overwhelm, especially when adults are learning new things. But if you're working with a red and you are a little slower for your answers, what you want to do is advocate for yourself. Tell that red, I need a minute. I've got to process that, because the red is firing at you. Hey, this is what we're doing. What do you think? Let's go. Also, if they do seem argumentative, it is not personal. This is not that it's not personal, it's business comment. It really isn't a personal. It's them trying to assess the situation with logic and facts and figures so they can get you from point A to point B. I hope that's helpful. Now, this is just for fun. We have a red bumper sticker. Lead, follow, or get out of the way. Every time I show this to a red, they immediately start to chuckle. What you got for us, Kristen?
So we have a mix of comments and a question in the chat. A bunch of people are saying that they are actually a mix of
Yes.
colors based on their personality assessments. So Dan actually asked, how do we benefit from color coding if we seem to be a mixture of all the colors?
I am thankful for that question. That's actually something we talk about in a debrief that I do with people that take the full profile. So I'll be a little transparent and share that my primary is a red. My secondary is a very strong blue. And there is a new profile out there about character, decoding these colors for leadership. It's kind of like a 360 evaluation. What I had to learn for myself was, when I'm in a comfortable space, when I know what I'm up to, I am a red in a good way. When I am not, what I have learned about myself is I go to the limitations of the blue, and we're going to look at each one of these colors. And the limitations of the blue include things like overthinking, perfectionism, analysis paralysis. Those may sound familiar. So knowing that secondary, I think, is incredibly important, because it helps you to understand, especially where you tend to react or act in a place of stress. So knowing that secondary is important. I hope that's answered the question, but if not, we'll go deeper with that. So again, red bumper sticker, lead, follow, or get out of the way. Let's move into the white profile. And these are so true. Now, if you discover that you have a white profile, be aware when it's time and you feel your temper is about to go. Whites have very long fuse. Once it is lit, it is on. I'm just saying that, little bit of offering a little bit of unsolicited advice. A white can be perceived as indecisive. Let's think about this. They're all about steady state. So if the state's not steady, they're going to try to get back to steady state as quickly as they can. Silently stubborn. We're going to talk about this with the bumper sticker in a moment. But I had mentioned earlier, I married someone with this profile. I can go and say, hey, I thought we were doing this. We're working on the plans. And he will say to me, I never said yes. but he also never said no. So I just assumed consent. Be careful with that because they're avoiding conflict. They don't want that direct confrontation. And they can seem unexpressive. They're taking a lot in, but they may not be as emotive as some of the rest of us. And they may be perceived as detached. How do we relate to the white profile? Accept their individuality. They are incredibly tolerant. They will accept you as you are, and they want the same in a reciprocal manner. They want the same back. Keep things informal and relaxed. If you tend to be high wired and very, very, very formal and very tight, you know if you are, they need things a little bit more informal or relaxed. And be firm and kind. Kindness is incredibly important for this profile and showing patience. If you come off as cruel and insensitive, it's not going to be helpful. It will be very counterproductive. If you force immediate verbal expression rather than letting that person gather their thoughts and prepare to respond, it may not be the outcome you want. Same with bringing on too much too soon. So again, if this is your personality and you have someone else coming out, okay, we got to do this, and what do you think about this? Advocate for yourself. Speak up. I need time to process this. I'm struggling with this piece. Use those terms to be able to respond. If you force confrontation, it is your choice. I would offer it may not be the best in every situation. The white bumper sticker, this completely cracks people up if they can relate to this profile. I'm not deaf. I am just ignoring you. And my personal favorite, if I pretend to go away to agree, will you just go away? If I pretend to agree, will you just go away? You're messing up my peace, my steady state. May or may not be able to relate to that. I'm happy to entertain questions. So we're going to look at the last two colors, and then we'll wrap up our time together. Blue. If we look at strengths and limitations, what a phenomenal profile. When there is mutual respect, for example, between a red personality and a blue personality, you've got a dynamic duo. You heard me use the word respect because they are quite different. So back to that original question, I have some folks that I've coached who have the blue primary and the red secondary, and then some are the red primary and the blue secondary. Be cognizant of that in a place of stress. Blues are phenomenally caring. Again, that true blue, loyal, intuitive. If you can't read a room and kind of get the picture of what's going on in a room, a blue can. A blue can tell you that third person on the fifth row in the red shirt that had those stripes was very upset. And other people are like, how did you know that? It's part of kind of their intuition. They're very thoughtful. They're the ones that will reach out to you the night before you start a new job and say, I hope tomorrow goes great. Now, others, it doesn't mean the other profiles won't. That's their bent. That's their bent. What a gift. What a gift. And flip side of it, they're perfectionists. They want everything done right. So the self-righteous can come in. They can be incredibly sensitive. You know, this is where I avoid and I do my best in webinars not to go in coaching mode, because some of us have heard for years, you care too much or you're too sensitive. Can I ask you if you've heard those today? Can you reframe it? The way I was built to care, and I am sensitive. It's having good boundaries around that. But they can be perceived as sensitive. There's that perfectionism. If you find you procrastinate, I literally had this conversation this weekend. Somebody said, I wait until the last minute, and then I get it all done. That's my best way to work. And I said to them, oh, you're probably a perfectionist. I said, how'd you know that? Because a perfectionist wants to do it so right that if they procrastinate, wait till the last minute, guess what? They don't have time to think about it anymore and overthink because it absolutely has to be done and they're able to move. How does this impact social excellence? Well, if you keep putting off that conversation, that interaction, that engagement that can benefit your community, your organization, your family. You all can see this. And they can be worry prone because they do care. Occasionally, expectations can be too high because they want everything to be so good. Can you relate? So, how do we relate to a blue? These are things I've already kind of emphasized. The loyalty is important because they're loyal to you. So, if you find yourself in a place where that loyalty has been cracked a little bit, just know it may take time to build that back. Seek to understand them because they so want to be understood. And if you've ever followed the love languages, this has been around a long time by an author, Gary Chapman, I believe. But here's some words that can help you often identify if somebody is a blue personality. I appreciate you. Have you heard that before? It's because they want to be appreciated. So we're going to avoid making them feel guilty. Trust me, they already feel it because they have such high expectations. That forgiveness may come slower. So if you've had that not so great social interaction, be cognizant of too much change or how that change is introduced. In a deeper dive with these profiles, one of the things that we learn about blues is an incredible, intentional, very need for security. I kind of joked during the season we've all been in, call it whatever you want, that this was a hard season for blues because they need security. And boy, didn't just about everything we see as being secure kind of get flipped up. So this has been a tough time. And that spontaneity because they're planners. Remember, they're planning because they're trying to make everything perfect. I have always kind of avoided putting this bumper sticker up until I talk to people that are in the blue personnel. They're like, oh, that's me. A buddy of mine who is in law school, every now and then I will bug him because he's such a good proofreader and walk through some profiles or walk through some PowerPoints with me. And when I showed this to him, he said, oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. So just a silly, take it or leave it. All right, last but never, never, never least, let's look at the yellows. Remember, their driving core motive is fun. So they are happy, they are sociable. You want them at your event. Spontaneity, it's a gift that they have, and they just have a natural charisma. Do you know anyone like that? You know, I recently brought on a new client, and she and I had met for coffee first. And I literally told her, I said, before you even take your color code, I'm going to bet money you're a yellow. You're that person that if you said to me right now, let's go off for the weekend and go hang out at the beach, that's this person. She's just that fun and sociable, and you know it's going to be a good time. They're inclusive. Take all of the other things away. If you want somebody that's going to include everyone and want everyone to be part of what's going on, that yellow personality, they do it naturally. What a gift it is. Now, potentially the limitation could be that they could be perceived as uncommitted, disorganized. That's not always a yellow. Some of the most prompt, organized people I know are yellow. They've learned to neutralize that limitation. They can be perceived as being afraid to face the facts. I want to pause here. If you're a blue, you're pondering, you're thinking about everything that may have gone wrong. A yellow can only take so much of that because they're ready to move on. They're ready to move on to the happier. Okay. So just know that, especially if you're one to dwell, and they can be perceived sometimes as unfocused. Believe it or not, a yellow wants some loose structure. It may not seem that way, but they do. They want some loose structure. And again, these are limitations. Not everyone has them. So, how do you relate to a yellow? First of all, keep it positive and upbeat. If you come in with a bunch of bad and negativity, you're probably not going to capture their attention like you may need. They need praise, they need appreciation, they want to look good. And encourage them enjoy what they're doing. Find the fun because they're going to help you find yours. And let them be expressive verbally. Some of these profiles may be that. And then again, don't ignore them. expecting them to dwell on problems. They don't need their time totally controlled. Just again, a loose structure so they know what the expectations are. You give too much loose, it may not be helpful for them. So give them some. I love this bumper sticker. It reminds me of a family member who went on a ride. And so if you're eating something, just set it down for a moment because you may know where I'm headed. And he rode this crazy ride and he jumped off and he goes, "That was so much fun. It was amazing." And then we all know what happened next. But for him, it was a great adventure. It was so much fun. And yellow personalities tell me this one is okay to show. Shiny objects distract me. Squirrel. Kristen, before we move back to tying this into social excellence, any questions or comments?
Let's see, Michelle's talking about blues need words of affirmations.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely. I appreciate you. So I appreciate that, Michelle, because they do need to hear that. I'm going to offer that the white personality needs to hear that too, because they're all about steady state. So they need that positivity to help them move on. Now, this slide, if you are a PowerPoint guru, a presentation guru, you're already picking on this slide because there's too many colors, there's too much going on. Wait till you see another one of these. But I wanted to kind of give you some visual on this concept of social excellence and some of the traits of it. So high expectations, I put red and blue. Does that mean that whites and yellows don't? No, these are just some of the bents. But a red's got high expectations because they're going to get us places. And they're leaders and they tend to have the ability to cast a vision. So they're going to think big often. Those expectations with that blue can also be there. They want things to be just so. That intentional connection. You know, a blue, if I were to sound like a Southerner, would say something like, "How's your mom and them?" And others would be like, "I don't even know they have a mom," but they want to know you. So many times I hear blues say, "I hate small talk." And so it's kind of helping reframe that, especially when networking, as we all know, is so important. And then connecting. A white is a phenomenal listener. Boy, don't we need some of those in our world? So they have these traits that can come in. Respect, whites will always offer respect. And a red wants that respect. Curiosity and openness. You know, I heard someone say one time that you can't be curious and have fear at the same time. I thought that was an interesting thought. And open, yeah, that sounds like fun. Yeah, that sounds great. Yellows. Again, that deeper level, engaging at a deeper level can happen with all of these profiles. They're just going to often be thinking in different terms of different end goals. And again, looking at the responsibility. Blues are incredibly responsible people because they want everything to be done right and they want it to be done in the correct way, perfect, high expectations. So they're often incredibly responsible. Can we focus on you? Because some of you may be going, "This is all great and it's great information, but what's the how? What's the how? Get me to the back to the why bother." You know, most days we want to be the best version of ourselves. And can I toss out, this also allows us to be better together? That's that phrase I say, I mean it, I see it. Can we be curious? And then this term, psychic income, I came across it in a webinar by someone named Dan Miller. Dan was a local guy, and he is the person, if you're familiar with the 48 Days to the Work and Life You Love series, that is who Dan Miller is. But he talked about this concept of psychic income, which I thought, where's he going? But what he was talking about is pouring into others. Even if, let's say, for example, we may be in an environment where we can't promote someone, we can't give them a raise, but can we say, you know, I really appreciate how you took this person and made them feel welcome. I really appreciate the intent that you had when you led this meeting for us. Those are non-tangibles, but that brings in kind of that psychic income because we're investing in what's going on with them internally. Being authentic. This is so important. You know, authenticity was a term that when I was coming up, first graduating from MTSU in the early 90s, we had a really bad recession. And I remember it was a very much a shields up environment. Some of you all may be able to relate to that. And this authenticity concept, idea, transparency, that was a really, if I may be so honest, uncomfortable thing to move into. It has made a huge impact. It's helped me to achieve more, get to know people better, and yeah, understand myself better. But authenticity may be difficult for you, depending on which way you came up. I came up in an environment in a world of shields up, don't let them see you sweat. Wear the navy blue business suit, never carry a pocketbook, all kinds of things that have really shifted. And if authenticity is still a challenge for you, tying into that next word of vulnerability, I understand. Years ago, a friend of mine sent me a Brene Brown book on CDs, and I had a few words, and I said, I'm not listening to the fill in the word. Why do you want me to? She said, because of what you just said. And I'm very grateful for that yellow friend that just encouraged me, show some vulnerability, show some humanity. People are going to connect with you even better. So I'm going to offer know your driving core motives so that this spin that we see going around here is achievable, even though it's aspirational, that we can get there and it will make a difference in our organizations. I want to tie this with 3 questions that I did as part of a session for a smaller group recently, as you're kind of trying to figure this out for yourself. Question 1, and when I put this question up, I had a gentleman reach out to me on chat and go, Kelly, you just put me in my zone of discomfort. And I thought, kind of meanly, good, because I want us to challenge ourselves. But there's no pressure here. I would like you, if you've kind of veered off and you're just listening to me kind of sideways, if you will, can I bring you back just for a few moments to look at these questions? What do you like about yourself? Now, that may be really, really hard for some people, but I'm going to offer what we like is often what we are good at. And it's hard. Some of us have a really hard time saying things about ourselves that we like. That's why that one video of that little girl standing in front of the mirror telling herself great things about herself went so viral a few years ago, because we just didn't always know what to do with that. Hearing someone do it in such a honest, innocent way. What are you amazing at? What if you're amazing at follow up? Y'all, we need you. We need those people that are good at follow up. What do you get complimented on the most? And I'm going to ask you to really think broadly about this, because if you think about the traits of that, it can turn into maybe your next move in an organization, at your work, in your business that you're running. What do you get complimented on the most? What do they say to you? Kristen, I love how engaging you are. I love how receptive you are to new ideas. What do you get complimented on the most? Think really broadly with this, y'all. And then finally, what are some unusual skills you have? Let's keep it, PG here. But what are some unusual skills you have? There may be something that you do that you don't ever see other people doing. Y'all, you may have identified a superpower for yourself, a superpower in social excellence. Somebody that has, again, the ability to follow up or introduce people. I had the opportunity a few weeks ago to a movie premiere for a movie that has not even come out. I got to meet the person that the movie was about. He gave us copies of his books. And it was all because one person connected me to another person who is probably one of the best connectors I've ever met in my life. And he's from East Tennessee. This particular event happened to be in Middle Tennessee. He reached out and said, would you like to go? Would you and your husband like to go to this event? And what a gift that was. This person is an amazing connector. And for those of us who love to read, I left that night meeting not just one author, but 2 authors, getting both of their books and getting to watch a movie about one of them. That was my idea of fun. So look at these questions, because I do believe this may help you discover your superpowers for social excellence. What do you like about yourself? Give yourself some grace to answer that, okay? What do you get complimented on the most? And it can be random stuff like, you've got the shiniest tires or shiniest wheels I've ever seen on a vehicle. There's a reason you're getting that compliment. Or what are some unusual skills you have? What are you just so good at that you don't often see other people doing? Introducing and connecting, for example. You know, I used to be told you can't change the world, and I don't believe that. I believe we can change the world one moment at a time, one small thing. So that's why I put these words, too many words on the page for those of you who are PowerPoint experts. But can we purposefully put ourselves out there? Listen, boy, I'm working on that one. Asking a bigger question than usual. Allowing someone, for those of you who are very high level in your organizations, I'm going to step a little, allowing someone else to do that with you. Asking about the why, that's tough for some. And I love this question. What would happen if that helped someone else? Taught someone something about themselves, gave them a feeling that they were not alone. That isolation has been, you want to talk about viral, been there, and help motivate someone to be better. And I love this. It's a disservice. I love this quote by this person. It is a disservice not to try. Going back to what I've repeated ad nauseum this hour, we are better together. I really believe that if we're using social excellence. So if you're interested in discovering your driving core motive, I have presented this before, and if you know me at all, you know I'm not a spammer. I will not wear you out. You will not get 400 emails. Nobody has time for that. It is really, truly my intention for you to be impacted by this the way that I have. Again, not my identity, but a phenomenal tool in my communication toolbox. If you're familiar with QR codes, you can open your camera app on your smartphone and hold that up. I think everywhere there's a QR code. The last 3 restaurants I've eaten at, there was a QR code to be able to see the menu. So that's the purpose of this. But if you prefer a link, it's the bit.ly. It's on the screen, and feel free to take this profile. If you want to reach out and talk more, you have my email address there, and I would love to have a conversation with you about your interests in the profile, whether for yourself or for your organization and team. I want to pause here and turn it back to Kristen for open questions and comments.
All right. First question, Christina wants to know if it was Dale Henry whose book and movie premiere you went to.
It was not. It was actually Dr. Ming Wang, who is a premier eye surgeon in the Middle Tennessee area. He actually escaped from China and has written a book about his story. And excuse me for turning my head. It's called From Darkness to Sight. Greg Kinnear stars in this movie. It was very powerful. I'll have to look up Dale Henry.
We're getting some thank yous. Let's see, we got a bunch of the questions while we were talking. Christina said, thank you, Dale is great.
All right, I got it.
Fantastic. Good questions, everyone. Great participation. Thank you, everyone that joined us today. Huge thank you to Kelly. We greatly appreciate you giving back to your alma mater and giving us this awesome presentation. I know I got a lot from it. I was over here taking notes and questioning everyone in my life and what color they are. So. Awesome. Well, guys, thank you so much again for hopping on. Here's Kelly's information. You will be getting an email after we're done here in a few days, just asking for your feedback on the webinar. This webinar will be on the MT Alumni website, and it will be uploaded to the MTSU YouTube channel as well. So for whatever reason you didn't catch the whole thing or you had to cut out early, that's okay. There's still an opportunity for everyone to participate and spread the word. So Kelly, again, thank you so much. Everyone is throwing in their thanks in the chat. And we are finished for today. If you're free on Thursday, we're doing Star Wars trivia at 7 o'clock. You can register on the website. I will be in a Chewbacca t-shirt. Hopefully some Princess Leia buns will be sported as well. So again, everyone have a great day and happy Spring Showcase. Kelly, thanks again. You were
Thank
fantastic.
y'all. Thank y'all. Thank you so much.